And whenever you're ready, go ahead and get started.
Sure. Yeah. For this workshop, I wanted to focus on walking everyone through the basic steps to mix and master a track, specifically for this acapella event. I learned most of this myself on YouTube, and I'm sure like people can like search further on a specific topic if needed, but I'm just going to be going through all the basic steps. I'm also going to be sticking to free plugins or anything that comes with the DAW. I won't be using things like Melodyne or Autotune, although those are useful tools for more sophisticated editing. But yeah, let me just start by opening up my project file. I have so I'm using Ableton, by the way. Oh, can you I'm sending a request to share my screen.
Let's know.
Okay, great. Yeah, I got it. Sharing sound. Okay. Do you guys see my screen? Okay, great. So yeah, I basically made a very small track. This is part of the song Tum Se Hi. I have a lead vocal with a four-part harmony for the bass, tenor, alto, soprano parts, as well as some vocal percussion, like some beatboxing. Um, I think a couple caveats. One, I didn't use a fancy mic like a condenser or anything. I just used my Apple earpods, and I just recorded this in my apartment. So apologies for like the background noise and like I guess the like the quality of the vocals. But yeah, let me just play you what I have, right? And let me just make sure everything is set up. Okay, so it's being sent to route through Zoom. So okay, let me know if you guys can't hear this. So yeah, that's basically all I recorded. Like you guys can all hear that, right? Okay. So obviously I'm pretty sure you guys could hear a couple of issues with the track. Um, and I'm just gonna talk through basically how to process this. First thing I wanted to talk about a couple tips for recording. Um, Obviously, like I said, I recorded this very quickly with my earpods in my apartment. If you can record in the quietest spot possible, with like the best equipment you have, try to get the most clean sounding audio you can. That's like the best thing to start like from scratch is like to have the best thing coming in. Um, what's it called? I think one other thing I want to talk about was make sure to record your part several times. This is like called recording multiple takes, right? Like you can see here for the lead vocal, I actually recorded I think 11 different takes. Um, and the process of just like going through and selecting which parts of the audio are best, this is called comping. This is like, it just like helps so that if you have multiple takes, you can just find the best parts of each take and put them together. Like for example, and like this is important, especially when you have like issues with the like audio. So like for example, let me play this for a second. Let me just play the lead for a second. Okay, yeah, like this is because my earpods just could not handle my belt. So yeah, I just had to like tame it down a bit. But yeah, no, just be mindful of that when you're recording. So then I think a couple of the things that I would like just like generally mention is like because there's a lot of background audio, I would try to clean it up as best as you can. I don't think we have time to go through like all of this right now, but I can just show you like, for example, like just part of this. So let me just slow the lead vocal again. Hey, so I would like basically start cutting out like so. And by the way, in Ableton, you can like split an audio track by moving your cursor here and then clicking on Command E. And I would just start getting rid of all the parts where there's like no actual like sing like melody being played. And like if you click on the track here, you see these like handles right here. These are like the fade handles, so you can just use those to fine tune this a bit. And let me also put the beginning in. I want to keep uh the breath in here, and that's I think fine. So when it's cleaned up a bit, it's more like hey, right. So stuff like this will just help make the background make the audio just a bit cleaner. Um then yeah. For things like beatboxing though, it's a bit harder to do unless you're like doing a bunch of specific editing. And I can get into that later, but sometimes I think, you know, for this purpose, I don't think you had to worry about this too much for like, you know, this sort of track. Anyway, now let's start like addressing the pitch. So typically I'd use something like Auto-Tune or Melodyne, but there's a free plugin I'd recommend you download. I'm using it here. It's called M Auto Pitch. Here's the link for it. I'm putting it in the chat. So M Auto Pitch is a plugin by the company Melda Production. It's part of this bundle called M3FX Bundle. They basically just have a bunch of free plugins that you can use. By the way, like a plugin, another term for it is called VST. It's basically just like um a tool that you can import into your track and into your DAW and use on your various tracks. So in Ableton, you can find all of them under plugins. And so like right here, I have them under Melodic Production, and I just dragged on the M Auto Pitch plugin onto my track. So let's open this up. You can open this up in Ableton by clicking on the toolbar button. So I've already kind of set this. So the main parameters I think you need to care about are the depth, speed, and the scale. So I sang this song in F sharp major. So I'm just if I just click on this and click on these things, it'll change. So if you change the note, it'll change the scale. That's like actually tuning to. And then speed is, I think, basically just how fast the tuning algorithm will respond. So I think for now I used 100% and it's totally fine. If you do like 100% depth and 100% speed, it'll give you like the very like auto tuning effect. Like let me try playing it. Hey, but wait, I don't have it turned on. Hey, but yeah, I don't really like that. I'm like on like lead vocals, you can also just get away with like not using it as much because you want to keep some of the original expressiveness. So I think I had it at like about 27% or so. I think this is fine. Hey, right. So let me show you the before and after. I've applied this to amount of pitch to all the other tracks as well. I'm just gonna um play before and after again. So this is what we had before. Okay, so let me turn them all on now. Right. So yeah, let's play this again. Yeah, I think the chords are a lot more tightened up now. They're like a lot more blending together better. So I really like that. Um, yeah, so I think at this point, one thing I will mention, I'm not going to do much of it here, but it's this notion of audio warping. So, basically that just means resizing parts of the audio to uh to different durations. And this can be helpful if you have a part that's like not in line with everything else, not aligned with everything else. So let me go to Tumsehi, like the Tumsehi part. Let me take out the beatboxing. तुमसे ही दिल होता है सुरमई शाम आती है तुमसे. Okay, this isn't the best example because a lot of this is like decently aligned already. Let me see. Maybe it's like okay, I'm not sure if you can hear, but there is like a bit of like misalignment between all the dums in here. If I really cared about that, I would like try to go in and fix it. Um, I'll just do a demo of this really quickly. On the lead vocal, let me solo this out. Um, the way warping works in Ableton is this notion of warp markers. So when you double click on a clip in your like in the track, this window will open and that shows like this editor with all these warp markers. So warp markers and warping basically acts like a spring in Ableton. That's how I like to think of it. Whenever you double click on a warp marker, it turns yellow, and then it becomes like a fixed point on that spring. So let's say I keep warp markers here and here, right? So then if I try to what's it called? Try to resize this audio. Um, everything within this part gets manipulated, but everything outside of it doesn't. Um, and if I tried to like, just add another one here, you can see that as I move this one, like this one is like basically like expanding, like this one is like contracting the spring between these two markers, and this one is expanding the spring between these two markers, right? So like let me just show like a very small example of what this looks like if I just drag this out. It's not going to sound that great. So you can see that like me doing that like sort of made things a bit worse. So I'm gonna just revert these because I don't really care too much about the amount of misalignment in this track. And again, this is very much a um track based thing, very much based on like what you need for your individual song. Um but yeah, I think the main things that I wanted to talk about in terms of like going on to mixing now are EQ and compression. So,
We have a
by the
question
way,
for you on
yeah,
this. Do
yeah.
you do EQ before compression or do you do compression before EQ? You
Honestly,
can
I do.
answer this too.
Honestly, I do both. And on this track, I think on some parts, yeah, I did EQ before compression, and maybe on the beatboxing, I might have done compression before EQ. It really, it honestly is something like you got to get a feel for. Like the reason, like, okay, I'm guessing. Okay, are you guys like familiar with like EQ and compression trading? It's been like a lot of time walking through that, or
I produce my own music, so
okay, nice, nice. What do you guys think? Like, I guess for the rest of the.
I'm more of a beginner when it comes to it, but
Mhm.
I can
Oh,
probably catch it.
okay, okay. Oh, no problem. Ishan, you can check me if I'm wrong on any of this, by the way. Yeah, like, let's talk about EQ and compression, then we can, I guess, get into when to do one or the other first. But yeah, with EQ, equalization is basically manipulating different parts of the frequency spectrum of a track to shape the sound in different ways. Right. So you can see I've already tried doing this. I'm gonna do something quick from scratch so you guys can get a feel for this. The main tip I have here is just to start like playing, like doing this more and just like starting to get like an ear for it, right? But some general guidelines that I'll give to get things started. First off, like I should have explained a bit, sorry. In Ableton, there is a stock plugin called EQ8 that comes with Ableton. When you load it up, it comes with 4 frequency bands loaded up. I'm gonna deactivate all these except one, and I'm gonna change this type to just a low cut. So what that means is that everything to the left of this frequency, which is 30 hertz right now, everything is gonna get cut out. And basically, I think one general rule of thumb is trying to attenuate frequencies below 20 to 80 hertz, maybe even 100 hertz, depends on the song. Mainly because like in this area, there's like usually just a bunch of background noise or garbage frequencies that you don't really want in your final vocal. And one thing with Ableton is this idea of audition mode. If you turn this on and you move this band, you can hear what's being cut, or like and so like I guess like what's being not just cut, what's being manipulated, I would say. So let's try this again on the lead vocal. I'm going to solo it out and start from here from the beginning. We start doing this. Not sure if you guys can really hear anything, but you can see there's like a little bit of a garbage frequency here that is just not really useful. So I'm just gonna get rid of it. But I don't want to go too much. So because like you can start to hear a bit of stuff that I want to keep in there. So yeah, that's fine. I think the next thing I would do is get rid of some of the muddiness, like the boxiness. You might feel like these are usually around like these sort of frequencies, like in the hundreds range. And typically a good rule of thumb is to have like okay, so one other thing I should mention is this notion of Q value. Q value determines like how much the frequency spectrum you're manipulating. So if I increase it, the Q, like the frequency range goes down, so it's a bit more targeted. So typically what I'll do is I'll increase the gain and reduce the Q value a bit to this, and then just sweep the frequencies, trying to find something that I don't like. Like let's start here. Yeah, see, around here's a bit of ringing that I don't like too much. So I'm gonna just go down a couple dB. And again, this is like an iterative process. You can get really into the weeds on this. I'm just making a couple quick edits. Hey, might go down a little bit more. Yeah. And then another thing I'll do a bit more frequency sweeping to try to find some other frequencies that are a bit ringy. Yeah, see that stuff doesn't sound that great, so I'm gonna and do a bit more of a cut here, maybe increase the Q value and be a bit more targeted here. Let's try like one more. And I'm gonna increase the Q value again. Okay, there's nothing else really here that's like super big, so I'm not really gonna worry about that too much. But I will start adding like a little bit of like what's it called, bit of gain, a little bit of gain to these frequencies over here, just to get a bit more clarity. Let's see how this sounds. Hey, okay, that's okay. And then I'm gonna turn on this one. This is like this in Ableton is basically like a high shelf. It's gonna basically increase the gain of the frequencies above this band. And you can do this a bit here just to add a bit more air, a little bit more clarity. Hey, you got to be a bit careful here because you can see in the background recording that there's like some the background noise that have frequencies up here. And again, it's just like like an iterative process at the end of the day. I think I'm fine with this for right now. Let's show the before and after. So I'm just gonna play without and then with. Hey, so yeah, it sounds a bit more clear. And I think I'm fine with that for right now.
Sorry,
Let's see.
Sudhanshu, I think there was a question.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So I think just like not more of a question. I think just more one thing to add, just in general, is that like you wanna. It's you obviously it's nice to really like carve out like if there's like a really like weird frequency or something. If you just want to like get like the main part of the vocal, I think just more from like a macro thing is that you also want to think of where each part sits in the mix at the end of the day as well, and that should kind of just influence like on how you EQ, like how you comp things, like at the end of the day. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Like, honestly, I didn't plan on going into even things like panning or like the stereo field and that sort of thing, but yeah,
Buses and
I thought.
panning. Oh no, none of that now.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. There's a question from Savita.
Hi, yeah, I had a question about with EQing, and you mentioned like looking for ringing and stuff. I like sometimes like I'll like do this whole sweep thing and I'm like, what exactly am I looking for that's bad? Like, or like what should I be like trying to remove from the frequencies to remove? Could you just go over like a couple things to like look for? Or like
Yeah,
you
yeah.
mentioned ringing, but like things like that.
Yeah, I think like here I was like doing something very basic by just looking for like in this case this isn't like as much as ringing as it is just muddiness. Like if I play this without the audition turned on, like it's just muddying up the vocals a bit. So I just wanted to cut that down a bit, and that'll make like my vocal a bit crisper, a bit more clear. It's like yeah, it's like things like that. And then like in this case, this was like a clear case of ringing. Like, can you hear how that like yeah, it sounds just like annoying and like it's just
Yeah,
yeah,
I
not
could hear
pleasing
the
to the ears.
ringing. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. Let me put that back down. Yeah. So I'm gonna apply EQ to the rest of the tracks as well. I've already done this. Yeah, I've obviously gone through I think a bit more for all these other tracks, but yeah, at the end of the day, like I said, it's really just listening and getting an ear for it and just doing this over and over again. Um yeah, and I think next I'm gonna talk about compression. Okay. Gonna compression like EQ has like is like there's a lot of different things to it, but at the end of the day, compression really is about reducing the dynamic range of your audio. What does that mean? Dynamic range is the difference between the loudest part of your track and the softest part of your track. By decreasing that dynamic range, you can get a bit more consistent sound. And in general, compression just like sounds a bit better. Like it sounds more uniform, sounds more coherent. You don't want to overdo it too much because then the sound like you're not going to be able to capture the like expressiveness. Like if you have a track that's like super soft and super loud, you don't want to compress like those parts at the same time because like um without doing additional like volume balancing because it'll just not be as emotive as what you wanted before. With that being said, I'll turn on the compressor plugin and walk through that. So again, this is a stock plugin from Ableton, and here again, all these techniques like typically are found in these tools are typically found in other DAWs as well. Again, if you just go on YouTube, you can find explanations on how to use them. Really quickly, for the purpose of this workshop, um, I think what's most important to pay attention to is simply the threshold, ratio, attack, release, and the output. And I'll walk through each of these. So threshold determines at what decibel level the compressor actually starts acting, right? So if I play this right now, the compressor's not really working. because the threshold is just too like loud. So I'm gonna start lowering it, and you can see that the sound actually starts to go down. Yeah. And in fact, I'm gonna go over to the softest part of my track because I want to get the threshold level to what's it called? Be able to encompass all the like the main sounds in my track, if that makes sense.
से तू से हर गरीब सांस आती है.
Okay, so you guys can see that this GR now, which is gain reduction, this dial is like increasing. That basically means that there is a gain reduction being applied. You can see this in this view on Ableton. If I start playing this,
सुरमई शाम आती है तुमसे
so
ही.
you can see that this graph shows how much gain reduction was actually applied to the track at that point, right? Next important thing is ratio. That basically tells you how aggressively the compressor will squash the audio. And essentially it's like for example, this ratio of 4:1 basically means that for every 4 decibels of audio above the threshold, you'll only get 1 decibel out, right? And that means if you have a ratio of just 1:1, there's no compression happening. It's just letting everything through. The more you increase the ratio, the more it actually squashes the incoming like audio and like makes it softer, right? So let me just get this back to 4. So if you play it right now, and let me actually turn off. I should have turned off the output gain. My bad. If you turn off the compressor. Yeah, once you turn it on, you can see that the volume drastically turned down. So now the next and I should talk about attack and release. Sorry, attack is basically what's it called? How fast the compression is applied. Here I actually think the default setting of like 1 millisecond is decently fine for most vocals. If you're like compressing like drums or beatboxing, I would change it to a 0 because you want the compression to hop on the transient of the drum sound as quickly as possible because like plosive transients like they happen very quickly, so you want the compression to be applied super quickly as well. But for vocals, it's fine to have it a bit more. And the release basically tells you like how long afterwards like to let off the compression, right? And honestly, I think just sticking to auto would make things simple. You don't need to worry about this too much. There's a lot of other complexities with the compressor, but we don't need to go into that. And I think the last thing is just the output gain, right? So now you've like reduced your volume because you've reduced the dynamic range, but now you need to bring it back up again. So typically I'll like look for like where the most compression is being applied, which I think is around here. Yeah, so I think I'm gonna go with around maybe 9.5, maybe even 10 dB of gain. Like about like output gain. And so now that'll basically turn up the audio after compression. So let's like again take a look at before and after. Right, so you can hear a lot more subtleties because the softer parts of your track are actually being pushed up now. So that's what I was talking about, getting more uniformity, right? Okay. Any questions on EQ and compression before I go on? Okay. In that case, next I'm just going to talk about reverb and delay. So reverb is basically a way to add space to your audio. I guess I should talk a bit about like return tracks in Ableton in order to explain this. So in Ableton, and again, I guess in other DAWs as well, there's this notion of return tracks where you can basically dial in on each track how much of its audio it sends to this return track, right? So on this return track, we have just a reverb, right? So any track whose audio is being sent to this return track will get its audio processed through this reverb plugin. So in Ableton, you have these dials over here that actually control that. So right now, what's it called? This first, it's kind of hard. It's kind of a bit intuitive if you don't like understand the DAW UI, but essentially, increasing this increases the amount of audio that's being sent from this group of tracks to the return track, right? So, and quick note, I have a group track on here, which basically means all the audio from my vocals flows into this track and comes out of here. And that's just a nice, useful way for like batch processing certain things. So before I do that, let me turn on the.
Also just add that a group track is also useful, not especially in maybe not in SATB context where there's one person per vocal part, but if you have multiple person per vocal part, it would be nice to send them to one group track and then send that out to like a master mix.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. Yeah, let me turn on everything. Okay. So I think everything is turned on. Let me just solo the vocals for right now. And I'm gonna slowly turn up the reverb. And also the delay. Like quick note on delay, it's just like it is exactly how it sounds like. It's like delaying the vocal by a little bit to get sort of like a little bit of an echoey sort of sound, and like used in certain ways they can add a bit more space. But I'll play around with this and try to get something that works.
ना है पाना ना खोना ही है तेरा ना होना जाने यूं होना ही है.
Sounds I think it sounds decently good. In terms of like it sounds a bit like a church choir, which is kind of like the vibe that I wanted to go for. So yeah, I'm happy with this. I think that's like the main brunt of the effects that I wanted to add onto this track. There's other things like working on the stereo field, but what's it called? And maybe we can go into that a bit later if we have time. But and I didn't mention things like de-essing, which is also helpful. I use a plugin from Waves to do de-essing. De-essing is essentially kind of actually exactly how it sounds like. It's like reducing the S sound. The S sound can be very annoying in our ears. It's like sibilance basically. And so one easy way of doing this that like I guess like we can implement here is to simply reduce like simply go into the clip and reduce the volume of that particular part of the track that's like having that S sound in it. So let me go to तुमसे ही
दिन होता है सुरमई शाम आती है.
Let me just do this for the lead vocal.
तुमसे ही दिन हो तुमसे ही.
So you can hear this S sound in here. Yeah, like I don't think it's particularly annoying right now, but I can show you like what I do to reduce it. So let me actually make this track a bit more manageable by clipping it again here. So all I'm focusing on is this. And then here in my clip editor view, this also goes into something called automation, which you can also apply on the project level itself, on the track level. But if you go to the envelopes tab, you have this like this notion of envelopes that you can apply for different parameters. And what I care about right now, I'm just going to focus on just the gain. This is like the volume of the track. So if you click on it, you'll see the clip gain envelope populated here. Right now, there's nothing on this because I haven't added any automation to it. And what automation really is just a way of fine tuning the edits on your track, really. So if you hover over this, you can see that like there's like a couple dots that appear here. And I can put a couple dots over where I think the S sound is basically, which is right around here. Yeah, it's right around here, right? So right now the gain is set to 100% because we're not really reducing anything. But for this part right here, actually let me get rid of the dots, and I can actually just do this by selecting that part right here. And then once you click on it again, like you can just reduce this just a little bit. So yeah, so you can click on it, and then you can see that this like editor opened up where you can actually just reduce it. So I'm just gonna reduce it like a little bit here.
तुमसे ही
That's a bit too much.
तुमसे ही
A bit too much, maybe.
तुमसे ही दिन होता है
And I might do a bit more fine tuning around here.
तुमसे ही दिन होता तुमसे ही दिन होता है.
All right, this is like a simple and effective way to do it, and you can dial this in as much as you want. You just gotta like pay attention to the final output volume of it. But yeah, like there's like other plugins like from like companies like Waves that makes this process a lot easier, but that's like honestly for more sophisticated. This is like a pretty simple way of doing it. Yeah. I think the last thing. Oh, and I actually should talk about the EQing and compression on the beatboxing. I haven't really talked about that too much. So let me play just like my beatbox track. I've already done a bit of work on this actually, but here's like just the track by itself. So if I really wanted to dial this in, I would honestly like clip each element, get rid of the background as much as possible, like what I was doing before. And I might even, so you can hear in this track, there's like a couple different sounds. I'm using the kick, like a snare, and some like hi-hats. I would try to keep these on separate tracks if possible, and EQ and compress, process them separately. For the purpose of this, this like what I did is I basically just copied the tracks onto let me get rid of this, and I copied the tracks onto two separate tracks and applied different EQs to both of them. It doesn't sound amazing by themselves, but like it does a decently good job of like highlighting what I want to highlight. In this case, I wanted to have like nice sounding kicks, like that resonated well. And then I wanted to add a bit more clarity to like the snare. And if I wanted to do more, I could have, maybe EQ'd the hi-hats a bit more. But let me just play what I have for like this track. This is like mainly for the basses. Let me turn these plugins on. Let me turn this on. I want to, and you can hear a lot of the background audio, and that's unfortunately something that can't be helped. And again, this is why it helps to record in as quiet and a place as possible. And then I'm also gonna solo out the this is like more geared towards like the snare itself. Let me take a look at this again. Yeah, it's something like I did like very quickly, and honestly, I think there's like a lot more that can be done if you get more time into it. But if you play it all, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to blend this in with the original audio, and just play around with the volumes on these. So by the way, these are the track gain knobs dials. So basically, you can increase or decrease the volume of the track this way. So this is what it sounds like just by itself. right? So I'm gonna add on. So you can get a feel for like how the bass has been a bit affected. Then I'm gonna add in this like the snare affected elements. It's not like that great, I would say. And there could even be like I'm gonna see if I can go without for this, but like the whole point is that you can play around with the different sounds this way. Like if I just what's it called? Got rid of all the non-bass sounds on this track, then you could focus much more on actually just processing the kicks themselves. Yeah. So with that being said, I'm just gonna keep this on with like by itself because this sounds like decently clean, right? And then on here, I have a reverb applied directly to here. So this is a preset. This drum stream is a preset of the reverb track that comes with Ableton in here. Obviously, same concept, like is across like all different kinds of DAWs. So I just like picked one that sounded good. And I think the main things to keep in mind for this one are the fact that there's like a on this reverb, you can filter out like which frequencies you don't want to actually get like sent to this reverb plugin. Here, like I'm actually cutting out a lot of the low frequencies because I don't want the kicks themselves to be super reverb. And I kept the decay size pretty small. Like these like again, I could get a lot more into this, but and again, this is stuff that you can like find online. And it's basically just like how you different ways of how you process the reverb. One key point is the dry wet knob. So on return tracks, you might have noticed that the dry wet knob is completely set to 100% because what's controlling how much of the original signal is being sent to this plugin is really these dials over here on like each track itself. But for this one, I set the dry wet knob lower because I'm not sending it to any return track. I'm just doing it all in here. So with it turned on, all the way, it doesn't sound that great, but like if you mix in the original signal a bit, you get like a decently nice drum room deep like reverb. It's not super like echoey, and I think it's like decent for like for right now. So now that I think everything's all the like processing elements are on it, let me play them all together.
तुमसे ही दिल होता है सुरमई शाम आती है तुमसे ही.
Okay, so you can see that I actually added these tracks back in because like once like everything's back in, it kind of sounds decently nice. So like and like I'm adding a bit more of the oomph to the kick by adding this back in, and then like a bit more crispness to the snares and the hi-hats by putting this back in. So yeah, I think the next thing is just like balancing all the volumes out, like for like like basic things are keeping the lead vocal out in center and like making sure that has enough emphasis. So I'm just going to do some iterative editing on this and maybe dial back the background vocals a bit more.
है तुझसे ही हर घड़ी सांस आती है जिंदगी कहलाती है तुझसे ही
Yeah, so that's a decent first pass, I would say. I kept the bass up a bit because I think I think keeping the bass like a strong bass sound like bass note has a good foundation for a cappella chords and harmonies. So I would honestly just recommend just turning that up a little bit. Um and yeah, again, you can play around with this a bit more. And this notion of like automating that I showed earlier with like a part of the clip game, like in terms of like automating that, you can do the same thing on the actual track on the actual tracks themselves. Like on Ableton, if you press A, you have to turn this off, but if you just press A, you can get like this automation view, and you can like get access to like a bunch of different parameters where you can like manually fine tune parts of the sound. Like if I wanted to reduce the volume of a certain part of the track here, I would do so without making sure everything else got turned down as well. Yeah, I think that's like most of the big things about mixing. Moving on to mastering, I'm I'm gonna like briefly touch on this a bit because like I don't think for ASAP, I don't think there's a lot you need to do apart from just getting the volume levels right. Um, but I mean, in general, what I will say is that mastering is the final step of making sure the song is like ready to be played on like streaming platforms or at venues or on the radio, that sort of thing. So it's like making the sound more cohesive. For like in this case, I'm really just going to be doing two things. I'm just going to be adding some like general EQ, and I'm going to be adding a limiter, and I'll explain more about what limiting is. But yeah, you can see here like I have this EQ on the master track, and Ableton, this is the main track, right? This is like, so all the audio from all your tracks feeds into the main track here. And I added some more attenuation of the lower frequencies here just to reinforce that. And then I added a bit more clarity in this range, well, a bit more gain in this range to get some clarity. This is what it sounds like before and after.
है बना ना खोना ही है.
Right, so there's that. And then the last part is limiting. The main thing here with the limiting that I think is important for ASAP is just making sure that the final volume is loud enough, right? And I think it's kind of hard to do this with this audio setup because I'm using Zoom. I'm what's it called? Shuttling all this audio out into Zoom. But what you really want to get a sense for is like, is this like at a comfortable volume to listen to? And that also means like bringing everything up to do that. So a limiter is essentially a compressor with infinite ratio. You mentioned here that I told you that ratio is how aggressively the compressor operates. So, well, a limiter basically squashes all the audio below, sorry, above the threshold that it's operating on. So the important and the reason for that is because you don't want to actually go above a certain dB threshold on your final track. Otherwise, you can get into clipping. So without the limiter, let me play this part right here.
तेरा ना होना जाने.
See, you can see here that I'm going past 0 dB, and like that's causing like some artifacts. You can like probably hear a little bit of clipping here and there. Like if you do it too much, it can just like not sound good. So adding a limiter on here is like a very easy step to just make sure that the final output is limited to something. I'll typically do like -1 to like negative 0.8 dB, and it's usually fine to for this use case. So you can see here that I've done so, and I actually have like in Ableton, there's like this parameter called maximize that basically just helps like increase the loudness of the track to like where you want it to be. So by doing so, all the volume, all like your final volume will be squashed to negative 0.8 dB, will not go above that. So one thing you got to keep in mind though is that your threshold should not be too low, because otherwise, while limiting won't cause your audio to clip, it will start to sound bad. And I can probably show what that sounds like. So right now I have the threshold set to like negative 2.8 dB, which means everything above that will get squashed down. But let's see what happens if I go further down.
तेरा ना होना जाने क्यों होना.
You can see that it doesn't sound good. Your final track isn't going above 0.8 dB, but it doesn't sound good. So you just gotta like get a sense for like where your track is hitting and adjust the threshold appropriately. So yeah, I think that's basically it. Again, like I said, there's like a lot more that can go into this, and we can do adjustments galore in order to like really perfect everything. But basically as of right now, here's like my first pass at going through the whole editing, mixing, mastering process.
ना है पाना ना खोना ही है तेरा ना होना जाने क्यों होना ही है तुमसे ही दिन होता है सुरमई शाम आती है तुमसे ही हर घड़ी साज आती है जिंदगी कहलाती है तुमसे ही.
So one thing I will say at the very end, I can already tell that there's like a bit of sibilance in these S's that I should probably tame, and if I want to spend more time, I can do that. But yeah, that's what I have as of this first pass. That's basically all I had for the demo. Any questions on any of this?
I have like a more advanced question. Do you ever use sidechaining or
I
that
do. Like
Yeah.
yeah, like I think you're talking about like mainly on the compression, right?
yeah.
Like
Compression and yeah.
yeah. Like so by the way, like essentially sidechaining is the idea of sending a different audio through your compressor than like what's playing on your current track, and that can like help what's it called, just like with different stylistic things. Like I think I've used it mainly with like when I have a kick drum, like an actual kick drum and like an actual track, and I'll like of course that like, and I'll like take the audio of that kick drum through like an audio of like a synth to get like some interesting effects, because then I don't have to manually automate that. I can just use the kick drum to shape that.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I use it a lot, like with because I think obviously with side, one of the nicest things that you can do is like you can prevent like one track like overwhelming, like completely overwhelming another track, right? So
Mhm.
and
That's true.
Yeah.
I honestly don't do that as much as I probably should. But yeah.
I was just wondering because there's like with acapella there's like a lot of opportunity for that.
Yeah, that's fair.
Do you ever choose between using either EQ or compression, or is that always like a hand-in-hand thing?
I would say they go hand in hand. Like one thing that can be sort of interesting is like EQing part of the audio into like like one specific chain, and then adding a compressor to just that part of the audio, so that different parts of the audio like aren't affected by that compressor. but that's like honestly more of an advanced technique. But yeah, I would say like both are pretty useful.
I had a question about like if a song has like two soloists, like maybe they're doing a duet or something, how if you have any advice on like kind of balancing those soloist voices and kind of making sure they kind of sit well together, just like general advice for that.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so one thing that I didn't touch on in here, maybe we can talk about it a bit, is panning, because we have a bit of time. Because I think what I would do is take advantage of the stereo field of the audio to deal with that. Like,
Okay.
I'm assuming in this case you have two soloists that are like doing similar things or like complementary things, and so they're basically just like as equal importance. So what I would do is like, and by the way, like to do this in Ableton, we have these like these pan bars over here. Right now, everything is simply in the center, but you can pan them left to right. So I'm just gonna actually play this and show people how that works.
तेरा ना होना जाने.
Right, so you see how like the sound like move to the left, move to the right. So in your case, maybe it makes sense to have like one lead on like, you know, a bit to the left, another lead to the like a bit to the right. Um, and yeah, like in general, I actually do think panning all the different parts would also be a good idea. So like if people are down, maybe we can also try that. But like, yeah, I mean, does that answer your question, Debbie?
Yeah, it definitely does.
Any other questions?
I have a question. I just don't know how to ask it.
I mean, yeah,
Um,
just go for it.
like when it comes to editing, especially with Indian music, right? Like you'll have sort of semitones that you don't find in Western music a lot. Like, are these softwares able to handle that, especially when you're doing pitch correction?
That's a really good question. Um, Honestly, I think depending on the software, like for M Auto Pitch, I think it's a bit of a hit or miss. What I would say is like first start by like reducing the depth, so that like not as much pitch correction is applied, or even just varying it so that like specifically on like these all off or these runs or like these specific parts like that are like not like that are not as clear cut, reduce the depth of them so that the auto tuning is not applied as much. Therefore, you do keep those like sounds in place. Um, but yeah, no, that is honestly like a very good question. And you can also experiment with like changing the scale to like chromatic. Because right now with major or like minor pentatonic, like you get just those scales. Um, yeah, yeah. I think it really much it really is like a question of trial and error.
Sorry, and I do have one other question. A lot of times I'll hear like mastered a cappella scores that have been put out there, and you can't help but like it sounds very robotic almost, like rather than
Mhm.
a natural choir. I guess what are they doing wrong in those that it's sounding so robotic?
They're
Oh
over
man.
producing. I've done
Yeah.
this. Is
What?
like my first couple acapella mixes were like this. You just put too much pitch correction, you put too much reverb, or you put too much like compression on it. It sounds super robotic. And if you just quantize
Mhm.
it, like it takes out all the like the natural feel from it.
Yeah, yeah. That's exactly it, honestly. Like I think at the end of the day, is really just it's really just a question of like using your own ear to gauge like what is like too unnatural or not, you know.
Hmm. Sorry, Ishan, what is quantizing again?
I guess like what Sudhanshu was talking about, like comping and just like making sure
Oh,
like
got it. Okay, got
yeah.
it.
What's been a project that you worked on that where you had to kind of get like creative with in the limits of Ableton and also within the limits of like what software can do to like fix up and mix and
Hmm.
master everything, but maybe we use like an out of the box kind of way to fix some part of it.
Hmm. Um, like in terms of like the limitations of the software, I think one thing I will say, this is the first thing that comes to mind is simply like the notion of like freezing your tracks and stuff. And like what I mean by that is so when you get too many tracks, based on your CPU, you just like might not have enough processing power, especially with all the different plugins to really handle a lot of it. And that can lead to like audio artifacts, clipping, like basically just all sorts of weird stuff that you don't like want to have. And honestly, sometimes like it has caused my DAW to like crash. So I think one helpful tip has just been to like remember like freeze your track. I think now that what's it called? Um Ableton has an option to like bounce the track in place with it, which basically means like it'll take all the plugins that are on the track, process the track, and just have and just like output like an audio like what you're seeing here. Um, Doing that has actually been extremely invaluable in terms of like being able to finish a project because like otherwise you can have just so many different plugins on so many different tracks running and it just starts slowing down everything. I guess that's not like really like so much as like a creative thing as it is just like so much of a software thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, just get better takes. It's like,
And that's like the general rule, right? It's like just have better audio coming in. It is true. Like the better quality stuff you have coming in, the better quality stuff you will put out, you know?
What if you're getting, because especially with a project like this, everyone might not be doing dynamics the same way.
Mhm,
What would be your tip to like add in dynamics
mhm.
that sound natural?
Yeah. I think one of the easiest ways is simply to add automation, like what I was talking about before. And I can try doing that right now. With like the lead vocal.
Surum
Can we put the volume down?
जाने
No, we'll go here actually.
सुरमई शाम आती है तुमसे ही
Yeah, so what I mean by automation again is like the concept just like adding manual edits to different parameters of the track. And in this case, I'm specifically going to be automating the volume. So again, if you click A, you'll get this automation view, and I think actually I actually don't know exactly how to do this without the I forget. I'm not sure if you know, Sean, like where this is in Ableton, but like in any case, if you just use the keyboard shortcut A, like this will get pulled up. And basically, in order to select the track volume, I would like click on this parameter. And then you can see that this particular parameter is being selected. So this is the envelope for the track volume parameter. Right now, it doesn't have any automation on it. And what I'm going to do is just add a little bit of a crescendo here. Um, and let's see how quickly and like decently I can do this. Let's start from here.
तुमसे सुरमई शाम आती है
So I want to add a bit of a crescendo on this, right? And maybe like I'll make a bit of a curve, right? So I basically just added a couple dots on this frequency envelope, right? Sorry, on this track volume envelope. And if you just increase it just a little bit, not too much. Like if you do it too much, it's gonna sound weird.
सुरमई शाम आती है
Like, and even then, this is a bit too like, yeah, too much. I'm like, gonna make this a bit more dramatic to show what I'm talking about.
सुरमई शाम आती है
So that's like the effect that automation can give. And then if I just dial this down like a little bit more, you can get something a bit more natural.
सुरमई शाम आती है तुमसे ही.
And if I wanted to lower this down a bit more, so it's like सुरमई शाम आती है, like that might be helpful. So I do something like
सुरमई शाम आती है तुमसे ही, तुमसे ही.
so, yeah, something like that. Does that help?
That was helpful. Thank you.
Mhm.
Right, are there any other questions? Well, in that case, we are at time, so thank you so much again for walking through this. I know this recording is going to help a bunch of people.
Yeah, no problem, no
Uh,
problem.
And are you, if people do have questions or want feedback for their arrangements that they're working on, are you open to being contacted by email through us or
Sure.
directly?
Yeah. What's it called? Yeah, email is fine. And I think you can just honestly like you can ask them to send it to this email address. That should be fine. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sudhanshu.
Mhm.